You're listening to Permission to Shine, the podcast by Sherisse Bisram. The Oxford Dictionary describes permission as the action of officially allowing someone to do a particular thing, consent, authorization. What if you were that someone and you gave yourself the permission to be everything you wanted to be and more? No more playing small and accepting less than. You are worthy of the life of your dreams, regardless of what it is that you've been through. And honestly, it's exactly what you've been through that has shaped you into the version of yourself that you are now. Like a diamond, you've endured so much, but instead of breaking, you have become stronger and brighter. And if that's not a reason to shine, then I don't know what is. And if nature can do it, then why the hell can't you? You are brave, you are strong, you are powerful, and you are enough. Hear my call and give yourself the permission to shine, because you don't realise how many people are inspired by your light. Like, share, follow, subscribe, and listen out for more. Stay tuned. Okay, amazing. So this is episode 8, and this is with one of my friends that I've known for a really long time, and she's now a PT, and you have been a PT for maybe, 10 years or probably more than that?
Crikey, yeah, PT, 10 years at least.
Yeah, amazing. So this is Nikki. She has a really great story, and obviously we met through performing, so really beautiful link here as well. So yeah, Nikki, you introduce yourself, who you are, what you do,
No
go.
pressure. I suppose I'd explain myself these days as I've kind of evolved from a personal trainer, because now I'm more of a holistic nutrition, health, personal trainer, mindset coach. Really, I know you and I have got quite a similar journey in that respect. It never ends up staying one thing. I'm probably going to go off in the deep end here. I don't like putting myself in a box either. So yeah, I'm a qualified PT. Yes, I'm a qualified nutritionist. Yes, I'm a life coach. I'm all of those things. But I suppose this is what will link back most to what you're doing, Sherisse, is it's never just one thing, is it? So that journey has been a real messy, scrappy. It's hard to say what you are and what you do. Does that make any sense?
Oh my God, 100%. I mean, I'm all about that, everything I say is there's no boxes here. It's just, but then this is the beauty, I think, about life is we are just multifaceted beings, right? Everyone, every single person on this planet. And I think if you label yourself as a thing, then you do limit yourself, don't you? Whereas if you do all the things, then actually, yeah, I could just introduce you as Nikki and you do everything,
If I get really deep really quick, which I'm pretty good at doing, I'm pretty good at oversharing, one of the things I'm working on myself the most at the minute with all the mentors and support I've got is not just having one identity. So 4 years, I was I am a dancer. What does that mean? I'm a straight A student. What does that mean? I am a PT, I am a coach, I am a business owner, and that's it. And then it means that if the business or that part of your world isn't having a good day, you're not. And that has a massive impact. I went through a whole journey of as a dancer, bodybuilder, because I was competitive bodybuilder for 8 years, at a high level as well. We're talking Mr. and Miss Universe, IFBB Pro, Amateur Olympia, abroad. I was finding that if I couldn't tick those boxes and be perfect of whatever that thing or identity was, I felt like I was failing all the time. So then there was this horrible inner turmoil. A coach would tell me, Nikki, go and eat these things, do this. This is how you create perfect. All right, I must do that. Okay, tick these boxes. But in the background, I'd be binge eating and lying and hiding it, not telling anybody. And then there's this horrible well, do I tell the truth? Am I vulnerable? Do I tell people what's going on? Or do I lie about it because I'm getting away with it and I'm winning trophies? For a while, I lied about it because I didn't want anyone to know. It's horrible. Even now, I've kind of healed in that journey. I can talk about it. I can tell you exactly the processes I went through. It was messy, but there was a lot of learning for myself going through that process of being less black and white, less all or nothing. I don't particularly at the moment, might change in the future, I don't ever want to get on stage again at the minute. And that's not from a place of fear or because I hate it. It's because I've found balance. I don't feel I need to prove to the world that I've got to be 10% body fat to be worthy of whatever I am. I quite like myself, which is really nice for the first time in years. But I tell you what, it is the same lesson that is popping up in business and coaching. So even though I've kind of worked on it in one sector of my journey, all of a sudden you're like, oh, there you are again. Hi. Does that make sense?
I mean, 100%, and I'm here for it because you know me, I love a bit of deep. So the fact that you've obviously like just dived straight in, I didn't even have to ask you the question. I'm like, yes, that's absolutely it. And so powerful, mate. And so many people will just relate to that because I think, especially as women, we have this idea of like, you know, society puts a lot of pressure on us for image, don't they? The way we look. And that validates us, isn't it? Like the prettier you are, you know, fit in the fitness industry, in the dance industry, it's like how athletic you are, how in shape you are, defines like whether people see you as good or not. And I think that's what's really hard, being in that space. And obviously for you, you know, being a straight A student, that's also pressure that you've put on yourself. Like, you know, if you had this expectation, this level that you always had to raise yourself to in every area of your life, you're doing it, aren't you? So then it's hard.
So ironic because I would never classify myself, excuse anybody gets funny about swearing, about somebody that give a fuck about what anybody else thinks. Never. Like I would always be the one that would be doing stuff different to everybody else. You're all going out drinking, cool. I'm going to stay in and I'm going to rehearse and I'm going to do dance lessons and I'm going to go off and do dance school. You guys are going to go start out, getting families and this and that and the other. Cool. I'm going to leave my partner. I'm going to go travel the world and I'm going to go do bodybuilding. I would always be the person that would see myself as doing the opposite of what everybody else did. But then when you look back at it and you go, yep, validation from A-levels, GCSEs, teachers. Yep, validation from trophies, coaches. It's just wrapped up in something different. You don't see it necessarily as what everybody else sees it as, but you're like, okay, so there's that internal drive and pressure to be perfect. There's that internal drive and pressure to impress somebody else, somebody that's an authority figure all the time, and it's either yes, it's right, no, it's wrong, yes, you're good enough, no, you're not, and literally putting yourself in the position in front of a panel of strangers, and this goes across the board for dance and bodybuilding, for others to judge your efforts. And it's like, oh, this is mad.
Absolutely. It's like a glutton for your own punishment, isn't it? Literally. Like, oh, do you know what? I think I'd fancy being judged today. Let's just throw myself in the deep end.
And why not do it while you're in your underwear as well?
Like, absolutely.
God, people have nightmares about stuff like
that.
And
hungry. Well, you're hungry too. Yeah,
hungry, tired, in my underwear, in front of people who don't know me. That sounds like a great idea for self-esteem.
Literally that, mate. Literally that. And it's so true, because I think obviously you're talking a grand scale, but I think we all set ourselves up like that sometimes, you know, like especially like, you know, normal people listening that just have like a 9 to 5 or whatever, or whatever it is they do in their life. There'll be moments where you've done it and you're like, why did I do that? You know, why did I put myself in that position? For what reason did that benefit me? You know?
Yeah.
And we get caught up in that cycle. But what's really powerful is the fact that you can identify that for yourself. Do you know what I mean? I mean, now, you know, like obviously hindsight's a wonderful
hindsight's
thing,
amazing. Right? Don't get me wrong. I think like quite a self-aware person. Well, I thought I was, until you actually look back at stuff, and coming from a place with a bit more knowledge and experience and life and all of those things that go on. I think one of the biggest lessons I've been learning recently is that the lessons keep coming back until you learn them, and 100%. They just pop up somewhere else. So for me, like it's never a finished product. I'm now learning that through business and work. Again, being totally authentic, I can work myself into the ground. I have no issue overcommitting myself, having no decent boundaries or personal boundaries. I will show up and literally run myself into the ground. Used to do it with training, like used to be like a badge of honor. Like, how much can you train? How little can you eat? How little can you sleep?
Oh yeah.
But it now just pops up in business. How busy can you get? How full can your diary be? How stressed can you get before you break? And it's just the same lesson popping itself back up yet again. And even this is like, you know, with some life experience, you sit back and think, oh man, I've just moved it somewhere else. I haven't learned from it yet.
Absolutely. Yeah. and that's that hustle culture thing, isn't it? It's like, and especially in the industries you've been in, you know, dance and in fitness, it's like it is all about that pedal to the metal, isn't it? So literally that. And I think that's what's so difficult. But you said something really interesting and really powerful earlier, and I just thought it came up again, and it is about balance. And I think that is such a key part, I think, that we're all searching for is balance. And I think I'm just mentioning it now, but I want to come back to that towards the end when we get to kind of how your journey's progressed. So do you want to just
say, like, sorry, I was going to say, like, with the balance thing, might be diving in a bit head first here. I think like most people, I'm like these two opposing forces all the time. There's a really soft feminine side that I'm trying to get more in touch with. And there's a really masculine side, a bit toxic at times as well, very toxic at times. But I can't ever not look back at that and with gratitude and go, that's what's driven me to get to where I have done, with loads of the things I've done. Like without that, what I look at like now, I'm learning, I call it grit and grace.
Nice.
You've got the two things that go together. Like without the grit, it doesn't give me action to kick myself up the arse and do anything with myself. With the grace side of stuff, I think the way I present that to other people, how I treat others and coach others, is done with a huge amount of grace and empathy and understanding. I'm still trying to learn that grace for myself.
Yourself. Yeah. No, do you
So
know what,
that
mate?
balance is hard.
Absolutely. And you're spot on there, because that's exactly my journey as well. Like, you know, when I look at like all the toxic force I put into my life, I would not have got here without it. And that was purely survival mode for me. Like that was just all I knew. It was like, get there, win, and at least feel validating something in your life, because the rest of your life doesn't reflect that. Do you know what I mean? So it is all of that stuff. But we'll dive a bit more into your journey. Just like kind of like talk about you as a woman, like your journey through to get you where you are now, basically.
It's a funny one, because like I said, the identity thing's massively wrapped up in it. Again, for total authenticity and transparency, 2 years ago, I started a journey with a mental health coach and mindset therapist. And one of the first things she ever asked me was, who are you? I went, Nikki, coach and athlete. I had 3 identities and didn't know what to do with them. And none of them matched up. None of them. Now, the reason I started that journey with her is because I'd made a decision. Tony and I had got engaged. Yay, lovely. Like next chapter of life. I did not want to feel stuck in this identity as an athlete for the rest of my life. So I'd been in a place for years, didn't really understand how to manage my body image. I'm Italian. It's easy to put a lot of weight on. There's a lot of pasta around my household. There's a lot of pizza around my mum. Like it's, and again, a whole nother cultural thing, but it's constant like, oh, you need to put some weight on, or oh, you need to eat more, or like, what's wrong with my food? So there's a real big culture with food and identity and love and all of that wrapped up in Italian culture and food, that you don't ever get taught this stuff at school either. You don't actually get taught how to look after yourself in terms of basic self-care. I think the last bit of nutrition education I had at GCSE science or PE was, do you remember the old like healthy eating plate? And I think we were given a leaflet and like, no, that's what you should eat, off you go. And that was it. Right, you got no information whatsoever. So there's me bumbling through life thinking, well, should I eat this? Am I allowed to have that? Is that wrong? Like listening to media, reading at the time magazines, show my age, like reading magazines about, oh, this celebrity just eats eggs all day. And you're thinking, oh, it must be eggs and asparagus. That's the thing. Caveat, no, it's not. Anybody listening, no, it is not. So there was me bumbling along through like teenage years. I got bullied throughout most of secondary school about my body image and shape, which goes off on another tangent about changes of ideal body shapes, because ironically now having bigger bum and legs is all the rage and everybody wants it. And that's the one thing I got poked fun at through the whole of secondary school for. I spent my whole time at secondary school trying to make myself smaller so no one could see me, basically. Hide away. Used to go and hide in the dance studio and try and exercise and make myself littler and skinnier and all that kind of stuff. Fast forward into like the dance school world, again, zero education, zero knowledge, zero help, zero support or empowerment around like, what is a healthy dancer? If you're dancing 8 hours a day, what should you be eating? Why don't you want us to go to the gym? What's wrong with lean muscle tissue? What's wrong with strength training? Like literally some of these places were so antiquated. I just sitting back and going like, we don't want you to go to the gym. If we find out anybody's going to the gym, you'll be kicked off the course. It's just madness, like absolute madness. So it's like, okay, I'm told that's wrong. I should eat and look this way, but you're not giving me any real what's and hows. As you can imagine, that totally spiraled into disordered eating. I was never diagnosed with an eating disorder, but it's pretty damn obvious. Like counting every single calorie, obsessively exercising every time I ate something to try and outwork the calories. I've never said that to anybody before. but I'm comfortable enough with it so far away now on my journey. I could tell you the calories in a banana and how many star jumps it'd take to try and burn it off. And I would literally live my life doing that on top of 8 hours of dance training every day. Now, you leave that vessel and that world and that bubble where there was some structure. No, it wasn't amazing, but there was structure. There was like classes, sessions, and mentors and stuff like that. And you go out into the big wide world on your own, it hits you like a ton of bricks. You're like, I don't know how to eat. Like, how the hell do I have a job? I don't even know how to eat properly. Like, what is this? How do I exercise? Panic. How am I going to do 8 hours worth of exercise a day? Like, that's what was keeping me in a certain shape. Like, all this body image stuff, all wrapped up in worth and validation. I fell into bodybuilding. It was just an excuse. It was an excuse to do the same thing. Oh, right, they look good. Excessive amount of training. They don't eat a lot. Great, I understand that. Let's do that. So when, again, you fall into that world, when I started bodybuilding 10 years ago, you just grabbed the biggest guy in the gym that had been on stage and said, yo, can you train me? There was no qualifications. There was no checking insurance. There was no understanding of any female hormones or changes in physiology from a male to it was nothing. Zero. It was just, let's see how little you can eat and how much you can train and see if you can get shredded. Literally. And I think I went through that toxic world for about 6 years until I had really bad rebounds after bodybuilding shows. So you'd be so restrictive for like 6 months and then you'd just go all out on a binge fest. It just put a magnifying glass all on disordered eating patterns. And unfortunately, the bodybuilding world really kind of promoted it as well at the time. Everybody would be taking pictures of how much food they'd stockpiled for after shows, how much they'd be eating, how big their cheat meals were, how they'd feel sick after eating. If you removed bodybuilding out of that context, that's somebody with binge eating disorder. Full stop. If a client presented to me with those kind of thoughts, I'd be like, we need to get some specialist support. But the bodybuilding world, no, that was normal. It was glorified. You'd take pictures of it, you'd put it all over social media, everybody'd like it, validate it, all of that stuff. I got to a point in that journey, I put about 3 stone on in about 3 months. And that's not a joke. I would go on a holiday after a competition, go away for like 7 days and come back and you'd be put like a 1.5 stone on. Your metabolism's through the floor after a show. Your thyroid's through the floor. Your emotional, your hormones, you don't have periods. You have period amenorrhea because you're eating so little. And to think straight after that, you have no reverse guidance. You have no guidance how to get out of that mess. You just act like normal. And whatever normal is at that point, you crave everything that's highly calorie dense, very little nutrition. You just cannot stop yourself. And you have no support either. Most coaches at the time just used to wash their hands of you. They'd go, that's it, show's done, well done, off you go, come back next year. That'd be it. I got to a point in that journey and I went, there has to be a different way. I cannot keep living like this. It has to be. And at the same time, I'd been doing my PT qualifications. I'd started doing my own nutrition qualifications because I just thought, this doesn't make sense. Again, going back to being a bit of an outlier, I was like, everyone's saying this, but it just does not make sense to me. There must be another way. So I educated myself and did a lot of research about different coaches and different coaching teams and found somebody who I could collaborate with. I needed to grow as a person to get to that point. So without my own knowledge and experience, I was turning up as a victim in every situation. So I would listen implicitly to the person in front of me and not question it. They know they're better than me. They're more experienced. I'm not good enough. Until I got my own confidence, education, empowerment around nutrition, understanding the body, physiology, PTing, like tons of qualifications, I could then show up as an equal in a coaching relationship and say, look, I'm not sure about this. I'll trust your guidance, but is there another way to do it? I wanted to find somewhere that wasn't so black and white, that was somewhere grey in the middle, where could I manage my own food and have somebody help and collaborate with me and overlook what's going on in terms of my mindset, as well as my mental health, as well as my sleep, my hormones. It ain't normal to be losing your period. It ain't normal. And that again was glorified. So 2 years ago, after we got engaged, I was like, I cannot continue being this identity for the rest of my life, where I'm either boom or bust. I'm either on show prep or I hate myself, one or the other. Have to find a way to transition out of this identity into a different one. and one that combines Nikki, the athlete, and the coach all together. And part of that journey was starting my mindset and my therapy, because I said, do you know what? I don't know who I am without this thing that everybody now knows me for. How do I become just Nikki that does compete if she wants to, that can get married if she wants to, that can run a business if she wants to, but can also go, well, I don't want to do that anymore. How do I do that? So I had to do lots of work on what my mind and reframing what my brain was doing, but education around knowing why certain foods do certain things, how to come out of a diet and phase safely if I need to, what food does for me, how to manage my body image. I said to the current coach I've got at the moment, because I still work with him 2.5 years later, he still oversees everything. Dan, I don't know what normal is. I'm either all or nothing. I have no idea where normal is. I don't know what normal body image is for me. I don't know how to find happy without being on stage. I don't get it. So we had to work really slowly I did a competition a couple of years ago, did a cracking job, best I've ever done. It also didn't actually feel that amazing, because that wasn't the goal anymore. The goal was to get to now. The goal was to get to a place where I've got full freedom over food choices, decisions. I know how to manage my body image. I can go out at weekends. I can have a glass of wine with my other half at the weekend, go out for dinner, and it doesn't have a huge negative impact on me physically or emotionally anymore. I was wrapped up in this place. It was literally like a prison. One meal, I'd go out for one meal and 4 or 5 pounds on the scales the next day. A, there's a whole relationship with jumping on the scales every time that I needed to break. But B, why 4 or 5 pounds after one meal out? My body was in such a terrible place metabolically and hormonally, wouldn't cope. That took 2 years to fix. It was worth it. Like, I'm in such a different place in terms of understand the implications. For instance, this week, right, I spoke to my coach on Wednesday, and I said to him, Stan, I'm shattered. Like, my performance has totally dropped in the gym. I'm not enjoying it. I'm achy and I'm sore. I need a couple of days off the gym. Now, that would have petrified me 5 years ago. Oh my God, that's not, that's 800 calories I'm not burning. Oh my God, that's it. I can't eat. Now it's like, no, I'm going to have a massage. I'm going to do some meditation. Totally different place, but understanding the values of those things as well. Like, one of my mentors always says to me, rest is part of work. And I didn't really understand it. So I suppose that brings me up to date, like real whistle stop tour from a nutritional perspective of where I am today and why. Because as part of this journey, wanting to get married, we want to start a family one day if we can. How can I do that if I'm petrified to eat or change my body image? I can't. How can I do that if I don't accept who I am and know how to manage myself without extremes? I can't, can I?
No, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Nikki, because I think obviously knowing you all this time, like what it's been probably about 12 years since I've known you. So I've kind of like had an outside perspective of like your life and kind of how it was going. And I think some of the things you mentioned in there, obviously I have similarities too, because of like being a dancer and like family culture, like body image in that industry, but dance industry. And like even when we were studying, like we were doing those like weight loss teas. You know, like, so because everyone was so worried about being thin, it was like all of that rage. And again, like same with you, it's like my body shape being curvy wasn't like the body shape,
was it?
No, exactly. And especially in the dance industry, like I was going into auditions and they were saying to me, you just need to do some more cardio so you can like carve down your curves. I was like, that ain't gonna happen, girl. Do you know what I mean?
I literally stepped off one bodybuilding competition. And well, I can remember auditions as well, but I stepped off one stage and the head female judge ran over to me and said, Nikki, you look fantastic. All you need to do is get rid of some muscle on your legs. So stop training legs and do cardio 6 days a week instead. That was the moment where I went, the fuck? This is meant to be a bodybuilding show. Meant to be promoting lean muscle tissue. You're telling me to get rid of it.
No.
What?
And like, you know, what was great about hearing like the real ins and outs of that bodybuilding world is, I think it's like you, I guess I've kind of, I mean, obviously you've dived fully into nutrition and that's something that you know about, but I feel like as I've gotten older, I've become a little bit more self-aware and like what works for me, what doesn't. And just, I guess from you and like the people I have in my life that are into that, you know, seeing, you know, you kind of, what you're observing, you pick up those things, don't you?
Yeah.
Like what's good, what's right for you, you know. The
Yeah.
self-awareness game is always key, isn't it? So I've gotten a better relationship with food. I don't think I ever had a bad relationship with food, as in
Yeah.
I never used food to control. Mine was more, I used food as a reward. So
Oh yeah.
then, so like my food journey was quite general, but
Yeah.
then I'd binge out when I felt like I'd deserved it, you know, like,
Yeah.
so I'd do more to win it over. But I wouldn't say that it held me back in that sense, but I know the weight of it, because what we all search for is control in our lives, isn't it?
100%.
So, you know, like food plays a massive part of that. So with a lot of people that I see, I always say to them when they mention about food is that what else has happened in your life for you to feel like you need to control your eating?
Yeah.
And that's probably where the mental health links come to, don't they? But
Massive part of, like, even in coaching, like, I am a nutrition coach, I am a nutritionist, and I work with clients who actively want to change their body image. Never food. Never. When we get to that's why I love coaching, because when you get down to the complexities of it, I can coach you, I can teach you how to eat, I can teach you the benefits. Don't get me wrong, big part of my like freedom from all of that, feeling trapped, was actually understanding food and nutrition, because no one teaches you. Once you have those tools in your toolbox, it's like learning to ride a bike. You never unlearn that stuff, right?
absolutely.
But the bottom line is, even if you know, this was me, it doesn't stop you having bad relationship with food. Because then when you actually look down deeper and start looking at functional nutrition, understanding stress management, understanding self-esteem and self-worth, I didn't want to be putting Biscoff spread in my mouth every night. I knew exactly what the calorie value was and what impact it was going to have on my health. And this didn't stop me doing it for years. So then you start digging through the layers and you go, right, where's that come from? What's triggered that in now? But what patterns has that been triggered from before? And why does that make you feel like you're getting stress relief or a little dopamine hit from doing that? Does that serve you, or does that serve the animalistic bit of your brain that only wants pleasure right this second? And how do we manage that? How do we look at giving me, even myself, like, this is the whole journey of self-discovery through myself. Like, it's all about self-mastery. And getting through that element. If you go, okay, if I've got extreme highs and lows of emotions, we're humans, we use food to fuel that, whether it's celebrations or depression, whether it's having a stressful day or your other half's just got a promotion. You use food and alcohol. That's what you use. And it goes all back to the culture stuff, and that's a huge value in my life. I love having that massive family. I used to be petrified of being involved with it, so I'd remove myself from it. And that just causes restriction and splurge. And it's just all wrapped up in nutrition, fitness, body image, and self-mastery of understanding how to control oneself. Can go so much deeper than that once you start getting into the layers of it.
100%. And it's so spot on. And I think what like is exactly the same as my work. Obviously, it's just focused on fitness. And I think so much of what you said there is just so key, because everything is interconnected about this, you know, the self-mastery, the self-worth, the self-awareness. Everything is connected, you know, like if people are listening now and they're thinking, bloody hell, I didn't think that would even be a thing, but it really is, you know, and it presents itself in so many other ways, you know, like addiction, you know, whether
scrolling
it's
your phone, sitting on your phone, constantly be addicted to TikTok is no different, and having cravings every night and sitting on the sofa and wanting a glass of wine.
And relationships with toxic partners, you know, like all of these things are addictive things that we do to escape how we feel internally. And that's why you have to do that deep dive. So, and it's so nice to hear, obviously, because this is the thing with healing and growing, right? Is that like you are successful in your business, you're moving forward, and you're still in that place where you're still having to learn. But that is the beauty of like becoming a master, isn't it? Is that you're always learning.
I think it's that thing, isn't it? You're always being the student.
Yes.
Like the moment you think you're the master, you're done. You need to go over into the room or just check your ego and go, hang on, there's someone else here that can help me, you know?
Yeah, and that's the beauty of, obviously, like, you know, for us, like being in these coaching spaces and mentoring and all this stuff ourselves, but equally having our own mentors, because we understand that process. And I think that really is it, isn't it? For accountability, but also growth, you know, like, and a lot of people feel stuck and stagnant in where they are. It's because you've limited yourself. You know, there's so much more available to you. And like you said, you know, when you got to that point where you got engaged to Tony and you were like, you know what, something needs to change here. You took that action to
Yeah.
do it, but also vulnerability, mate, because it is vulnerable, isn't it, to accept and open up. Like there would have been a time where we would have had a conversation like this probably 5 years ago, and it would be very rigid. We'd be like, you're right,
it'd be
you're
10
right.
minutes. You're right. Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, great. Wonderful. Wicked. Love it. See you later.
Or you'd be like, I did this thing. It was really cool. Do you know what I mean? It's so
talk about the
surface.
vulnerability side of it. God, I have the worst anxiety. Always have. Always have. You wouldn't think that getting on stage, performing and all sorts of things, would you? But that is, for me, that's my comfort zone. That is not uncomfortable at all. Even things like this, talking, presenting, teaching, educating, performing, that's my comfort zone. I know the rules. There's set things to do and not do. You know if it's right or wrong. Easy peasy, right? And that might sound completely backwards because I know some people hate that kind of stuff. That is my comfort zone. It always has been and always will be. So that's not where I feel challenge or discomfort. I find it hard to be really vulnerable about my feelings with people. Yeah. So getting better at it, even as a coach, it makes me as a better coach because then people realize I'm not trying to be this like on a pedestal, well, she's the coach, she never struggles with anything.
Absolutely.
Stepping forward that first time and telling anybody I had disordered eating was awful. Like literally made me feel sick. I remember telling my first coach via text message, it took him 2 days to answer me. 2 days. And all that time, my brain's telling me all this stuff. He thinks you're useless. He thinks you're terrible. He thinks you're worthless. Blah, 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 all of this.
Yeah.
He didn't. He just messaged back saying, sorry, hun. My other half's been in hospital. I've just got your message. like literally, it was like, so sorry I didn't get back to you. Thank you so much for telling me. Here's a wicked book. Let's keep going. Like it literally was so lovely. I was there like, oh my God, I'm a terrible human being. I'm awful. And even more recently, I've just, again, mentors and things, like I've always got my own nutrition coach and mentor. So I've got an objective set of eyes so I don't go back down old patterns and old habits. Somebody to keep me like anchoring. I have a mindset or mental performance coach at all times in my life, different people serving different purposes. Most recently, I've been working with somebody for mental performance around my business. Previously, I'd worked with a therapist on my own like self-limiting beliefs. I have a business coach at all times and a business mentor. So again, got objective set of opinions and eyes. I call it my boardroom, like my mental boardroom. I've got my business mentor here. I've got somebody supporting my mental health here. I've got somebody supporting me in my own personal development in this corner. They're my mental boardroom. So I've got soundboards because working from home can be lonely, right?
Yeah.
You don't have people to absorb that energy in your environment off if you're not careful. So you've got to pick your own circle to be around. Something I've also found really hard over the years, knowing when to let go of stuff and when it doesn't serve me anymore. Because this goes into that whole thing of knowing my own mind and knowing I'm good enough to make those decisions. At times I've held on to mentors or coaches too long. One, because a fear of what if there's nobody there, but two, not feeling like I know what I need and not being able to decide if I need to move on or change. Like that has been a big hard learning, and it still fills me with dread and anxiety trying to end those kind of relationships as well. That's really hard.
And that's what I wanted to just say then. What is really important in all of that is that we can all have guidance from other places, but ultimately it's listening to your own voice. And I think that's what's key that I wanted to just say to the people listening, because you know, sometimes the people that you take advice from might not necessarily know truly what your soul wants to do. And I think that's the important thing. So, you know, you just hit that nail on the head there where you were like, no, you know what, like I was holding on too long, but actually I knew that it was time to let that person go. One
of the biggest things for me that I've got to learn to listen to better is that my anxiety is a feedback loop that something's not aligned. That's it. Absolutely. If I'm like, shit, I'm anxious all the time, why? Slow down enough to figure out what it is about that situation. 9 times out of 10, it's when I'm like, that needed to go. That needs to be let go of, and you haven't done. Or you need to go away and remove or change something, because ultimately what you're hearing, what you're being presented with doesn't match up with your values anymore.
Yeah, for sure. And the fact that you're constantly evolving, that is always going to change. So you have to keep checking in always, don't you? It can't be, you know, you can't just get, like you said, to that master level and be like, I know everything is amazing because I'm amazing. It's like, no, like, what do I need today? Yeah, exactly. What do I need today? What do I feel like? and constantly doing that always. And that is the beauty of being self-aware and all of those things, is because I can't stress that enough. I say it all the time, but I think we're so in a society where we're mindlessly living, you know, we're just living one for validation.
Next thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And not actually being fully present and like taking it all in, you know, like it's all part and parcel of a bigger journey. But ultimately, how you feel about yourself inside is what presents itself on the outside. So if you are surrounded again by toxic people or situations or people that are in this surface level mindset, that you are just done with those types of people and those friendships, it's like, what are you presenting outwardly? Like, where is that coming from internally?
Yeah.
And I think with anxiety as well, so many people suffer with anxiety and they don't realize. They just think that, oh yeah, I've just always had this like knot in my stomach. Yeah, that's anxiety, hun. Do you know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't have that knot in your stomach. That shouldn't be there. And I say that wholeheartedly because that's what I did. I lived like that for the 29 years of my life.
I assumed that was me.
Yeah.
Like, I was anxiety. Even as a young kid, I can remember things I used to unnecessarily worry about. And this goes into a whole nother like area of like, that comes from a lot of trauma and a lot of shit past wise growing up, and the things you observe and learn from, and the relationships that people have or don't have, and boundaries growing up.
Absolutely.
I'm just stepping into a new mentorship that's going to help with that somatic side of stuff, because now I've recognized that is holding back a lot of my own limiting beliefs. That's why the lessons keep popping back up, because they are deep in nervous system. They're not going
absolutely
anywhere.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the work that I do, is that side of things, you know, like deep inner, that healing childhood trauma stuff. Because, you know, everyone has some form of trauma or something that happened in their childhood that made them the version of themselves that they are now, right? And it seems like very scary and dark, but it's not always dark, you know. But for a lot of people that I speak to quite a lot, is that they had a very safe upbringing, like a safe, really
but that
safe.
teaches certain things, doesn't it?
Yeah, but also the trauma in that would be the fact that it was so safe that no one could speak up or no one could say what they needed to say.
No risk's not allowed. Like, stay safe, like stay in these boundaries, you know.
And they've stayed in the same job for 20 years and had no pay rises. So it's like, so, you know, that's how it presents itself in other ways, and that's why it's so important that, you know, we're doing all these things and it's connected. And I think for you as well, Nikki, I think you do so many different things. For you, like, having balance is so key, isn't it? Because you need to have rest in your time in your diary, and you need to be able to fill your own cup up first, don't you? So I guess that's probably something you're learning.
Just totally transparent, I still don't get it right. It's the hardest thing. I can present, you know, coaching. I'll be like, right, make sure you've got some recovery time, or when can you get a bit of self-care in? Like, can you take 5 minutes to journal? And I'm the one that's there like that, messaging, like, you know, like, absolutely like 100 miles an hour. Because I think, again, sometimes what we can do, getting quite deep, is put all this stuff in place to stop yourself looking at yourself. All these other things in place. If you slow down and remove it all, you have to look at yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's uncomfortable. It's not comfortable to sit and go, no, I'm not happy. I'm struggling with this. I find this hard. This relationship's doing my head in. Like, the amount of people I've worked with that come in for a weight loss journey and realize they're very unhappy in their life.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you start stripping the layers back.
Absolutely.
And it's like, it's not food's the thing, is it? You're not happy where you are in your life.
And you know, that's so connected, mate, because I get people that are like, oh, I don't need to talk about this thing. I need to talk about this thing. And you're like, yeah, it's all, you're all one. Yeah, that's it. Let's go back to that part. And then they're like, no, I had therapy for that. And I'm like, yeah, I think I still need to just hear about it though. And then funny enough, they just didn't go deep enough, or it's just interconnected. It's so crazy, isn't it? How our like minds and our bodies, and we absorb information and even thoughts and memories are so deeply enriched in our body. And it could just be the fact that, you know, like my mum's generation, it was all about like the weight loss DVDs and like all of that stuff. And it could be that you always watched that your mum was always on a diet, so then you're always like, oh no, I can't eat that. And then you've then created a trauma for yourself, haven't you? But
something that's really interesting, it's slightly off piste, but there's loads of work and studies around sleep and memory and transferred genetics at the minute. It's quite a bit out there, it might sound it, but there's transferred trauma that can happen from children to parents from memories and genetic memory that's now popping up, that if our parents, our mothers, it's not saying that it's a hopeless cause, but say like our mums, for instance, have lived in a society where it's constantly hammered into them that like their body image is not good enough, they're not worthy, they feel terrible, that genetically some of that gets passed on. So then trying to literally rewire the way you think, see, perceive, learning, everything around like body image, perception, there's a lot of work to do there. Like you start peeling the layers off, and it's like the reason I do what I do now is because I don't want it to take anybody else the 10 years it took me to understand why there's so many complexities to it. I'm not trying to overcomplicate it. Basically looking after yourself, health habits, mindset work really goes such a long way. It doesn't have to be complicated, but it's not easy either.
No, absolutely, mate. And 100% everything you were saying there. I mean, I am mega woo-woo, so nothing throws me off, you know. And actually, I know that for myself because I've had life regression. So just understanding that, like, you know, and even more than that, like just to understand spirituality and all these things. But yeah, like my trauma that was coming down was like lineage. It was like through generations of oppression, you know, like from my like family history, and like being told that, oh, the reason it was so hard is because you needed to break the cycle. And luckily I took the initiative to do the deep dive, and I have been. But equally, you know, occasionally if something just niggles a little bit now, I'm like, oh, I just need to have a look at that. But before, I'd be like wearing the whole balaclava suit of this trauma, not realizing. You know
it's just little things like it's like similar. There's concepts, even just from generation to generation. My own dad has very, very poor health habits, and a lot of it is around lack of boundaries. He was a first generation immigrant, came over here, didn't really understand English, he had to teach himself. There was a lot of stuff around trying to be the best he could be to prove that he was worthy being here. Oh, hi, why do you think I have trouble with that, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
For a start, health-wise, here's the one client I've never been able to fix.
Yeah, but isn't that the cycle, mate? That is what the universe does to us, because I have the same thing in my life with different members of my family, and I'm like, you know what? All you can do is worry about yourself, can't you? All you in turn will inspire the people around you if they want to be inspired. And I think, you know, I guess with like father figures and like male like figures in your life, they always have themselves in their own kind of stubborn world, don't they? Of like what they want to do and stuff. So I get that's the thing.
Even down to little things like starting your own business. I was very much brought up in a world where you go and get a job, you get pay rises, you get promoted, you stay there and you stay safe. You stay safe. That's success. You've got your A-levels, you've been to uni, go get your job, progress up through the council, that you stay safe.
Yeah.
But that shoved it up its arse and left.
Oh, absolutely.
It wasn't fulfilling.
No. I never even had that. Now, to be honest, though, from the start, I think that I just was doing my own thing from the day one. No one believed in me. No one thought it was possible. When even up to probably about 2 years ago, people were like, when are you going to get a proper job? I'm not, guys.
I said one thing, like, I love my dad to bits. He's hard work, but it's taught me a lot. Yeah. His health, his mental health, all of it has informed so much of who I am. But like you, that ends with me. That cycle. I can't be responsible for you and your world and what's happened. I can be responsible for what continues, and it stops with me.
Absolutely, mate. And that's exactly my thing in all areas of my life. And the thing is as well, like it comes from all different areas of my life. That's one section of your life. But when you identify, no, that's there, that's a beautiful space, isn't it? And, you know, something you said as well about, you know, why you're doing what you're doing now, like your story is so deeply ingrained and authentic to you. And that's why people hire you for it, because exactly the same reason you do what you do is why I do what I do. I don't want people to struggle like I did and feel lost and waste time and energy on things that don't serve them. When actually, when we can get to the core of it quicker, we understand then how we can move forward. And doesn't it make your life so much easier? Like you're being led, your hand is being held by someone that's done it and done it the hard way. So you can do it the easy way.
Exactly that. Don't you do it the hard way? I did that. Like, let's just bypass all that rubbish.
Absolutely that. And it's so important. And that it's really, I'm really glad to hear as well that like, you have invested so much time into your mental health and all of these things, because I mean, not only just for the eating side of things, but just for your life as a whole, mate, because you deserve to like live in that peaceful space of like feeling worthy every day of just being who you are. And I think so many of us like that have had performance backgrounds or fitness backgrounds
You
or
don't.
whatever it is,
Yeah.
you can just feel worthy of just being you. And I think that's the powerful thing, isn't it? But until you really feel that statement, like, again, I could have said that to you 2 years ago and you'd be like, yeah. But now it's like,
You don't believe
absolutely.
it. You don't embody it. You go, yeah, you're right. There's resistance.
Yeah.
Whereas there isn't resistance anymore.
No.
Like, I can happily walk in a gym now and somebody goes, you competing this year? I'm like, God, no.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you not do that anymore? Might do. Just not doing it at the minute.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
There's
it.
no limitations. It's like whatever you feel is right and you can do whatever you want. You're like, and that is the feeling, isn't it? Limitless. And I remember doing my real deep dive of healing and I came out of it probably like a year after I'd done the really deep part. And now obviously it's continued to move in that time. But I remember just feeling limitless in that space of like the weight of the shackles that I was carrying for all this time have finally left my body. And I get to be free and I get to do and be whatever I want to be. And it's amazing, you know, that space, isn't it? That beautiful space that you have, which is so lovely, mate. So, okay, so obviously you've spoken about your career, like why it's important, your life, like your journey to get there, which has been so valuable. Do you have some like top tips that you want to share with people, maybe just at the start of this, you know, maybe they've identified that they want to have a little bit more of a healthier lifestyle. What is that kind of the best things to start off with that they can just do from now themselves?
So like practical stuff, just to get zoom out a little bit, because we've got real deep. So if you zoom out and go, look, I want to live a bit of a healthier lifestyle, I want to feel healthier, like physical health is going to have an impact on your emotional health. First, honestly, it sounds so silly. Drink more water. It sounds ridiculous. But when you look at like trying to change a lifetime of habits, start stupidly small so you can achieve it. So first thing is, I'm not going to give you arbitrary numbers because everybody wants the number and I'm going to be really difficult like normal. And so look at what your habits are doing already around hydration. So if you're drinking nothing or next to nothing other than cups of coffee and tea every day, look at that and start with getting yourself a water bottle. And just start the process of going, right, I drink about 500 millilitres a day at the minute. Can I have 750? Can I have 1,000? If I drink a litre, can I have a litre and a half? Like, make it small and measure it. Like this, honestly, it's got my numbers on the side of it. Measure it. So it's
I'm with you there, girl.
Insight, it's not out of mind. That's going to in itself just straight away sort out a lot of your cognitive function. You're going to stop feeling so foggy. You're going to have more concentration. You feel more alert. You're going to sleep better because it helps with cerebral washing, like cleansing your brain. You're going to be more energized and you're going to be less hungry. Just that on its own, because it satiates you. It stops cravings. And 9 times out of 10, when you're like, oh my God, I'm starving, you're thirsty.
Yeah.
Because it's exactly the same chemical response and hormone response. So that would be one real basic thing in terms of like intake. And the second thing, like output wise, again, I'm going to say the same thing. It's so stupidly small. Don't go and join a gym and try and do 6 days a week. See how much you move already. I say everybody, 99% of the population have some sort of device now that tracks their activity. While they're not 1,000% accurate, they're a good idea of what you're doing. If you move and you do 2,000 steps a day at the minute, try and do 1,000 more every day. If you do 8,000 a day at the minute, try and do 1,000 more. Literally break it down to the smallest thing. And in the ideal world, do it outside, because you're going to get the benefit of the sunlight, vitamin D, getting back in touch with nature, grounding, all of those elements, even melatonin production. So if you get out in daylight for 10 minutes more every day, you're going to sleep better because it sets your sleep hormone. Tiny little things that actually have the biggest impact. Because if you're sleeping better, moving more, getting vitamin D, you're going to be sick less. You're moving more, so you might lose some weight anyway, if that's bothering you. You're going to start feeling more energized. You're drinking more water. Your cells are going to be hydrated. Your nutrition is going to get to the right places. You feel better about yourself and you're showing up for yourself every day. Tiny hydration and movement.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know what? That ties in so well with like my mindfulness things, because, you know, for me, like moving your body is so essential for shifting that stagnant energy in your body. You know, it needs to happen. So not only are you going to feel better for all of the reasons that Nikki has said, but it's that physical release that you need of those stagnant emotions, you know, anxiety, depression. You're just shifting that energy out. And like, that's what's so important. And sunlight is like the biggest and best healer. You know, we all feel much more better when we're on holiday, don't we? Because that sunlight is like, and you can fully relax. And if you find those little moments of joy every day, like that is just a beautiful start to begin with. But on that, I guess I would say, looking at your life as a whole, and you might have already covered it, but just to be extra specific, what do you think was like the real pivotal moment in your life where you really fully gave yourself the permission to shine, to be the version of you that you are now?
I can tell you the moment. So it was actually in a mentorship. I rocked up to this business mentorship with very well-known business coach. He's amazing, wonderful guy, love him to bits. And I turned up with all my toxic masculinity wrapped up in a bag, like, here I am, power dressing with my prep bag because I was on prep for a bodybuilding competition. I'm a fitness coach. Ta-da! Here I am, right? All my toxic masculinity in the room. There I am. I turned up expecting to go through this business mentorship and be taught how to create a business, run my sales, fulfill clients, how to do the nitty-gritties of the tech stuff for like making check-ins good, and how I do that whilst I'm competing and all of this. Was I wrong? Sat down, first day, the mentor started talking about self-sabotage and holding yourself back, and how business problems and fitness problems are always personal development problems. And I can tell you, in that moment, I felt sick. There was a physical reaction. I had to run out of the room because I thought I was going to throw up. I left the room, sat in that bathroom shaking for 10 minutes. Now, that might sound ridiculous, but it genuinely had that much of an impact, because he started talking about, if you're holding yourself back in this area in business, other people hold themselves back with their eating. It doesn't let them see their own personal development problems, and all this stuff bubbled to the surface. Went back in the room. Obviously, he didn't make a big thing of it because he wouldn't embarrass me. Come back in. Lunchtime came round, and he just sat down with me as everybody else left. He went, "You're going nowhere." Oh, shit. He literally sat down and just went, "What was that?" Breakthrough, floods of tears. All came pouring out, and I still have the piece of paper. I think I wrote 6 pages of notes while I was talking to him, and everything just came out. Everything. The whole lot. I turned up there expecting to be taught how to do KPIs and sales and SATs and social media and email marketing, and I left there going, holy shit, that's not what this is about. That moment.
Absolutely. No, that's so powerful as well, mate. And I think and it really is that moment where he held the mirror up to you, didn't he? Held the mirror and he said, look at yourself right now. Are you being what you want to see? And that's it, isn't it? And then I guess from that moment on, when the veil shifted and lifted, you were like, cool, I'm going to take actual steps now to make this happen. And I think that's a really powerful thing, you know. And I think again, it comes down to self-awareness, but also having that mentor or someone to guide you, to really help you see that for yourself. And I think, again, you know, when people are doing the work and they're showing up and all of these things, it just mirrors back to you all of this beautiful
don't
energy.
get me wrong, not everyone's going to have like a breakthrough like that. It's not going to be that extreme for some people. It will be those niggly moments that you're like, something's got to give, like where you're questioning yourself. If anybody's listening thinking, well, was this going to be some epiphany? No, it won't always be like that. That was just in a very controlled environment, and those questions were done intentionally to see if there was anybody in that room that needed that.
And also, I think that you wasn't in a position where you would have taken the little niggles at that time. You needed that. The universe needed to be like, wake up. Do you know what I mean? And
I'd have ignored it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know. Well, mine was I fell down the stairs. I've lived at this house for 30 years, fell down the stairs, and I was like, okay, because it was all the little niggly things that were building up. The universe was like, wake up, Sherisse, wake up, Sherisse, wake up, Sherisse, wake up, Sherisse. Boom, fell down the stairs. And I was like, damn. I was like, okay, we're going to do this now. Okay, sure. So it really is that. And yeah, I think if you can get quiet enough and still enough to listen, you will always know the answer, right? Your soul is always telling you. And that's the thing with anxiety. It's like you're not listening to yourself, and it's just your soul telling you, listen to me right now.
Your soul, your nervous system, everything's linked.
Yeah.
You can physically weigh your soul. It weighs something. It's a physical thing.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know you could weigh it. That's amazing.
Weigh it. So there's studies that happen there over in America. Obviously, all the good stuff happens in America, but they did studies that basically they've proven. Have a look into it. But there's a physical weight to a soul. It's a physical thing. So when you think about it, you're not listening to that. Your anxiety, your nervous system is all wrapped up. Like there's this beautiful world that's transpiring of like spirituality and science together.
Yeah.
Where you can give everything a quantifiable, like, oh, okay, my soul's a physical thing. Oh shit, I have to listen to that. That's real. Same with willpower. Willpower is a physical chemical product. You're not just a person that doesn't have willpower. That's fuel. Your brain uses glycogen for fuel. Glycogen is your willpower. If you're carb depleted, if you're not eating proper carbohydrates and you're tired, your brain only uses that source of energy for fuel. So if you're sat there sleep deprived, hungry, tired and stressed, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. Your willpower's empty.
Yeah, for sure.
Mad,
No, absolutely. I love that. I never heard about the soul weighing anything, or the like the willpower being like weighable. That's just like mad. That's crazy stuff. And I love that, because I always talk about how, you know, manifestation is like quantum leaping and all connected to the quantum field and realms. So yeah, I understand that to an extent. So it's really nice to hear and get that deeper insight. But yeah, it's been really wonderful having you talk about all these things in a lot more depth, because I think especially with a lot of people that are listening, they're probably having underlying issues with eating that they just didn't even realize, you know, habits. So it will really give the audience a chance to really like look at themselves and be like, cool, well, how am I trying to control myself here? And like the fact that it's all connected, it's all intertwined, is just so powerful, mate. So I love that. And I think to kind of round off, like I guess from like a bit of a soul's message, like kind of what do you feel like right now in your heart and soul that you feel like, if anyone listening, and what you'd like them to know, just a bit of guidance or whatever.
It's just, I mean, like if it was me listening like 5 years ago, it would just be to be vulnerable enough to get started on something. Doesn't matter how little it is. Doesn't matter which avenue you enter this journey of personal development from, whether that's from a spiritual perspective, whether it's mindset, mental health, whether it's fitness, weight loss, nutrition, all roads lead to the same place. It's trying to better yourself. So whatever vessel or journey or part of that you feel comfortable as your inroad, just start. That's it.
Absolutely that. And I think, you know, for both of our journeys, vulnerability has played the massive part in shaping who we are now. We wouldn't be here doing what we're doing now if we wasn't brave enough to be vulnerable. No. So I think, yeah, absolutely that. So where can everyone find you? You know, like what's your next program you're doing, or anything, any details you want to share about upcoming work?
I'm the biggest social media whore, so I'm all over social media. My coaching program, my coaching page is under my name, Nikki Antonaccio, online coach. So that's where you can find me and tips. I do lots of stuff about like mindset tips, nutrition, free masterclasses, bits and bobs like that. So if you want to start dipping your toe in that area and learn, just follow and listen. Like, don't have to be diving straight into like coaching side of stuff if that's not for you. But if it is as well, I run a monthly coaching program as well with myself, and I've got a team of expert coaches that work with me as well. So if that's something you're interested in, and that kind of journey, that part of what I do is called Best Version Yet. So it's all about being your best version physically and emotionally all in one.
Amazing. Yes, and definitely go and check out, especially like free resources. It's always just nice to just
I've got free recipe packs, training plans, all that kind of not like simple level stuff, but you know, when you think I need something to get my hands on to try, I've got tons of freebies and giveaways, so just go and download them all off my link tree on my Instagram and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you so much, Nikki, for just coming in, sharing your beautiful energy and your knowledge, and for being really open, I think, about this subject and the situation, because I think a lot of people are scared to admit it a lot of the times. And, you know, just hearing how beautifully intertwined it is with, you know, the work that you're doing on yourself, the growth that you're going through, and also the fact that you're still going through some of this right now. And that's the beauty of life. It's a journey, right? It's not linear.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for coming. And yeah, I hope, you know, if anyone is looking for Nikki, I'm going to put all of her details in the show notes. So yeah, you'll get to find her there. So yeah, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Sherisse Bisram, Inner Power Activation Leader for Women. If you are ready to up level, to elevate, to ignite your inner flame, to burn everything you once were, to trailblaze into your future, into all of your manifestations and more, then head to my website to book a free 30-minute alignment call. I have one-to-one containers available for 90 days and 180 days. I also have an online program for 6 weeks. It's a group program for women called Permission to Shine. That's also available as a self-study as well. I have a journal available on Etsy as well as worksheets. There's multiple ways to work with me, and I'm here to help you. You deserve to shine, to be the most amazing, most confident, fearless version of yourself. What are you waiting for?